Hello there, traveler, who is wrestling with the long dreams of the night. Have you ever awakened with a sense of confusion after a strange dream, only to brush it aside as a meaningless fragment of the mind? Our greatest mistake is treating dreams as a detached oasis, when in reality, they are the direct echoes of the stones of the soul you have been carrying on your shoulders throughout the entire day. Carl Jung once taught that the unconscious never speaks idly. It responds directly to the very reality your ego is trying to control. If you do not place your dreams within the context of real life, within the pressures, within the masks, persona you wear to please the world, you will forever be staring at the finger pointing at the moon while missing the moonlight of truth itself. The exhaustion you carry does not always come from labor, but from the unconscious struggling to scream a message that you have been ignoring in waking life. Hello, I am Milo, and I will be accompanying you tonight on a journey to explore the mysterious, deeper layers of the soul. This video, lasting over 2 hours, is not merely an invitation to sleep, but a sanctuary of stillness where I promise to help you wipe clean the glass of the lighthouse of awareness. Together, we will explore one essential question. Why did your soul choose to tell you that story? At this very moment, take a deep breath, set down the raft of control, and allow this journey to guide you back to your own true face. You are enough, and you have always been enough to face the truth. Stay here, because the answer to your waking reality lies within your dreams themselves. 1. The trap of the dream dictionary. When we lose ourselves in other people's symbols, there is a very subtle temptation that almost anyone who has ever taken dreams seriously has fallen into, at least once, the belief that dreams can be interpreted through a fixed system. All it takes is a dream dictionary, a symbolic lookup table, a promise that to dream of X means Y, and our anxiety is instantly soothed. The chaotic world of the unconscious seems to be compressed into neat formulas, easy to digest, easy to apply. Yet it is precisely here that Jung believed human beings go astray from the very first step. Carl Jung warned with great clarity that no symbol carries a fixed meaning for everyone. He wrote, "The interpretation of dreams is in no sense a mechanical process. It depends entirely upon the personal situation of the dreamer." Collected Works, Volume 8. This statement is not merely a technical remark. It is a foundational declaration. Jung is telling us that a dream never exists in a vacuum. It is always a living response of the unconscious to the real life of a particular person living in a particular situation, with conflicts, lacks, and distortions that are uniquely their own. The dream dictionary is seductive because it strikes at a deep and hidden fear, the fear of confronting oneself directly. Looking up symbols allows us to take a detour. We do not have to ask what is wrong in my life right now. We only have to ask, what does this symbol mean? And in doing so, we unconsciously evade the most important question of all, the question of lived context. Jung called the relationship between daytime consciousness and nighttime dreams a mechanism of compensation. The unconscious does not speak at random. It speaks in order to balance the distorted attitudes of consciousness. If consciousness is too inflated, the unconscious will bring it down. If consciousness is overwhelmed by fear, the unconscious may amplify forgotten strengths. Jung wrote, "Dreams are the natural reaction of the self-regulating psychic system." Collected Works, Volume 8. This means that the same symbol appearing in two different lives can serve two entirely different functions. A dragon appearing in the dream of someone who lives in fear and avoids conflict may be a compensatory image of instinctual strength that the person has not yet dared to touch. Yet that very same dragon appearing in the dream of someone intoxicated by power, arrogance, and control may be a symbol of a destructive shadow threatening to devour them. To impose the same meaning on both is not merely inaccurate, it harms the psychological process of the dreamer. The greatest trap of the dream dictionary does not lie in its lack of precision, but in the way it strips the dreamer of inner responsibility. When we believe that symbols already carry predefined meanings, we no longer need to listen to our own lives. We no longer need to ask, what am I exhausted by? What am I avoiding? In what way am I living against my own nature? The dream, instead of becoming an invitation to dialogue, is reduced to a code to be cracked, an intellectual puzzle, cold and impersonal. Jung insisted that the correct path does not begin with the symbol, but with the human being who is dreaming. He affirmed, the dream is a little hidden door in the innermost and most secret recesses of the soul. Collected Works, Volume 10. That door does not open with the key of general knowledge, but with personal associations with lived history, with memories, wounds, and longings that are profoundly individual. An image only truly reveals its meaning when it strikes a living point in the present life of the dreamer. Without that impact, all interpretation remains mere conjecture. At a deeper level, the superstition surrounding the dream dictionary reflects a broader problem of modern humanity: the tendency to externalize meaning. We have grown accustomed to seeking answers outside ourselves, in books, experts, systems, rather than committing to the difficult yet necessary journey inward. Jung recognized this danger early on and warned, "Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes." Collected Works, Volume 10. Interpreting dreams through formulas is a continuation of looking outside. Reading dreams within the context of real life is the beginning of looking inside. Therefore, breaking free from the trap of the dream dictionary is not merely a methodological adjustment. It is a profound shift in one's attitude toward life. It requires us to accept that no one can understand our dreams for us, that meaning does not reside ready-made within symbols, but emerges through the dialogue between the unconscious and the life that is unfolding. Dreams do not come to offer easy answers. They come to pose the right questions. Questions that, if we are courageous enough to pursue them, may lead us closer to our own true self. When we have managed to dismantle the trap of the dream dictionary, when we stop searching for fixed meanings in symbols and begin to doubt ready-made explanations, a deeper question immediately arises if symbols do not carry universal meanings. Then what serves as the foundation for understanding a dream? Carl Jung answered this question with a key concept often overlooked, yet decisive for the entire analytic process: the conscious situation. 2. The concept of the conscious situation. When a dream begins to have meaning only within the life being lived. According to Jung, a dream is not a message descending from a mystical realm detached from everyday life. It is a direct, living, and precise reaction of the unconscious to the current state of a person's consciousness. In other words, to understand a dream, we cannot begin with the dream. We must begin with the life the dreamer is living. At the moment the dream appears. Jung called this circumstance the conscious situation. The totality of attitudes, conflicts, pressures, choices, disappointments, and hopes that daytime consciousness has constellated, that is gathered and organized around a few central issues. He wrote, Unequivocally, dreams are always related to the conscious situation of the moment. Collected works. Volume 8. This statement establishes a clear boundary. No dream can be understood if it is separated from the current life context of the dreamer. Any attempt at interpretation that ignores this fact, no matter how refined, remains mere conjecture. What is crucial is that the conscious situation is not limited to external events. It includes how a person is perceiving their own life. Two people may be in the same circumstances, under the same work pressures, in the same strained marriage. Yet their dreams may be entirely different because their conscious attitudes differ. One person denies the problem. The other is obsessed by it. The unconscious will respond to these two attitudes with two different symbolic languages. Jung emphasized that dreams do not speak of what we already know. They speak of what consciousness overlooks, minimizes, or deliberately avoids. He wrote, "The dream gives a true picture of the subjective state, while the conscious mind denies or recognizes only with difficulty." Collected Works, Volume 8. If someone is exhausted by work, yet keeps telling themselves, "I'm fine," the dream may appear as an image of collapse, weakness, or being chased. If someone is in a relationship that has died emotionally, but still clings to its outward form, the dream may carry tones of coldness, emptiness, or a recurring sense of abandonment. These images are not random. They are necessary supplements to the one-sided view of consciousness. For this reason, Jung believed that the analyst's first task is not to interpret the dream, but to understand the person who is dreaming. Without knowing how that person is living, whether they are loving or losing, moving forward or stuck, ignoring the body or listening to it, every interpretation is like shooting arrows in the dark. Jung warned, "If you do not know the conscious situation, the dream remains a riddle." Collected Works, Volume 16. Here Jung is not speaking merely about analytic technique, but about a deeply humanistic attitude. A dream is not an object for intellectual manipulation. It is the voice of a living person experiencing real tension. When we ignore the conscious situation, we inadvertently turn the dream into an abstract object, and the dreamer into a mere example rather than a living being. A common misunderstanding is the belief that the conscious situation consists only of obvious hardships, such as illness, unemployment, or collapse. In fact, Jung pointed out that the most dangerous situations are those that appear normal, a life that is too stable, too adapted, too aligned with expectations. In such cases, dreams often take on strange, illogical, or seemingly meaningless qualities, because the unconscious is trying to disrupt the complacency of consciousness. Jung wrote, "The unconscious is not just evil by nature. It is also the source of the highest good." Collected Works, Volume 13. In this sense, dreams do not merely correct what is wrong. They also point toward what has not yet been lived. But to hear that invitation, one must dare to look honestly at how one is living, not as one presents it to others, but as it is truly unfolding within. Therefore, the conscious situation is not a secondary item in dream analysis. It is the ethical and psychological anchor of the entire process. It compels us to face the truth that dreams do not come to replace life, but to reflect and adjust it. Reading dreams without reading one's own life, according to Jung, is no different from trying to understand a statement while ignoring the situation in which it was spoken. When we accept this, the dream ceases to be a mystery to be solved and becomes a truthful interlocutor, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes frightening, but always intimately bound to the path we are walking. And it is precisely at this point of intersection between dream and life that genuine transformation can finally begin, when a dream has been placed back into its proper conscious context, when we understand the circumstances in which the dreamer is living, the pressures they are under, what they are avoiding, or clinging to a more subtle question immediately emerges. How did the unconscious choose this exact image to convey its message? Why not another symbol? Why this seemingly ordinary image? Jung's answer leads us one layer deeper into the truth. The meaning of a dream does not reside in words themselves, but in the personal memories attached to those words. 3. Personal memory. When a table is no longer just a table. One of Carl Jung's most fundamental and most frequently misunderstood contributions to dream analysis is his insistence on the decisive role of personal associations. Jung did not deny the existence of archetypal images, but he firmly maintained that before expanding a dream onto a universal plane, the analyst must return to the living memory of the dreamer. To skip this step is to build every interpretation on sand. Consider a very simple example. A person dreams of a table. Through the lens of a dream dictionary, a table may be assigned a range of meanings. foundation, stability, family labor, or even social order. But for Jung, all of these remain mere hypotheses until the dreamer begins to speak about their table. For one person, the table may be the place where the family gathered peacefully for evening meals. For another, it may be a cold surface around which arguments unfolded. And for a third, such as Jung described in his clinical cases, the table may be the place where a father once slammed his hand down and declared his child banished from the home, a moment frozen in memory, yet still alive in the unconscious. In that case, the table is no longer an object. It is a wound. Jung stated this with great clarity. The dream uses symbols, but these symbols are not always collective. Very often, they are personal. Collected Works, Volume 8. This sentence serves as a warning. The unconscious does not speak in the abstract language of concepts, but in the language of lived experience. An image in a dream carries meaning only when it touches a memory charged with emotional energy. Without that energy, a symbol is merely an empty shell. For this reason, Jung regarded personal associations as the only true means of limiting the polysemy of symbols. The language of dreams is inherently ambiguous, expansive, multi-layered. Without personal associations, symbols drift endlessly, allowing the analyst to project any narrative onto them. But when the dreamer says, "That table reminds me of the moment I was thrown out of my home," the range of meanings is immediately anchored. From that point on, the dream ceases to be an abstract riddle and becomes a very specific message about pain, shame, or a sense of exclusion that continues to live in the present. Jung emphasized that the analyst's task is not to invent meanings, but to listen to the dreamer's associations until the dream clicks. He wrote, "A dream is never a mere reproduction of memory. It is a self-portrait of the psychic situation." Collected Works, Volume 8. That self-portrait is painted with the colors of personal memory. A table, a room, a road, each carries the imprint of what has once occurred. And the unconscious chooses precisely these images because they once bore emotional weight. Here Jung stood in opposition to the tendency to treat dream interpretation as an intellectual game. He understood that when personal memory is ignored, the analyst inadvertently imposes their own story onto another person's life. Jung warned, the analyst must beware of imposing his own psychological premises upon the patient. Collected Works, Volume 16. This is especially true for ordinary symbols. They are easily overlooked, easily interpreted too quickly. Yet it is often the most mundane images that conceal the deepest repressed memories. The unconscious does not require grand symbols to speak the truth. It needs only images that once touched the heart. A common misunderstanding is the belief that focusing on personal memory makes dreams narrow, stripping them of symbolic depth. Jung thought the opposite. It is precisely when personal memory is acknowledged that a dream can responsibly expand toward the archetypal level. Only after understanding what the table means to this individual can we ask whether it also touches broader themes such as power, order, or exclusion. At its core, emphasizing personal associations is an act of restoring dignity to lived experience. It affirms that your life, with its seemingly minor memories, is legitimate material for meaning. The dream, though, does not ask you to become someone else. It asks you to look directly at what has happened to you. And at this point, dream analysis is no longer about getting it right, but about a courageous journey, daring to acknowledge that the images of the night are calling us back to moments of the day we have never fully digested. The table, then, is no longer an object. It becomes a doorway leading from personal memory to the deepest truth of the soul. When we have understood that every image in a dream is firmly anchored in personal memory, that a table only truly carries meaning when it touches an experience that once shook the dreamer's life, then a deeper, unavoidable question arises. Why did the unconscious choose precisely that image at precisely that moment? Jung answered this with a central principle of the entire analytical psychology. Dreams operate as a mechanism of compensation aimed at restoring a balance that has been distorted in conscious life. 4. The compensatory mechanism. When dreams rebalance the soul, according to Carl Jung, the human psyche is not a passive system resigned to prolonged imbalance. It is a self-regulating system, constantly seeking equilibrium between opposing attitudes. Dreams are among the most refined instruments of this self-regulation. Jung wrote, "Dreams are the natural reaction of the self-regulating psychic system." Collected Works, Volume 8. This sentence contains an essential truth. Dreams do not come to recount yesterday, nor do they come to flatter the ego. They come to correct. And that correction is often uncomfortable. When during the day, a person becomes overly inflated, overly identified with success power or social image, the unconscious does not applaud. At night, it may place that person into dreams of humiliation, failure, insignificance, or abandonment, when during the day a person sees themselves as weak, powerless, and a victim of circumstance. The dream may unexpectedly grant them strength, aggression, or actions they would never dare to imagine while awake. In both cases, the unconscious does not judge. It compensates. Jung emphasized that dreams do not tell us what we already know, but what we are lacking. He wrote, "The dream presents the unconscious contents that compensate the conscious attitude." Collected Works, Volume 8. If consciousness leans too heavily to one side, the dream pulls us toward the other. And for this very reason, dreams often disturb or even offend the ego. They undermine the pleasant stories we tell ourselves about who we are. A common mistake is to assume that the compensatory mechanism operates only when a person is clearly wrong. Jung showed the opposite. The greatest danger lies in being too right, too adapted, too perfectly aligned with external norms. In such cases, consciousness becomes rigid and one-sided. The unconscious is then forced to intervene with more extreme, more bizarre images in order to shatter that false equilibrium. Jung wrote, "The unconscious is not just evil by nature. It is also the source of the highest good." Collected Works, Volume 13. This means that dreams do not merely pull us away from what is wrong. They also draw us toward what has not yet been lived. If we live too rationally, by daydreams may overflow with emotion. If we control everything, by daydreams may erupt in chaos, not to punish, but to widen the range of living. The compensatory mechanism becomes especially evident during periods of crisis. When a person clings tightly to an outdated attitude, a relationship that no longer contains life, a job that has drained all meaning, or a self-image that no longer fits, dreams often become persistent and repetitive. These images refuse to disappear because the conscious attitude has not yet changed. Jung observed, as long as the conscious attitude remains unchanged, the unconscious will continue to produce the same compensatory material. Collected Works, Volume 8. Here the dream is no longer a single message, but a psychological pressure. It forces a choice: either continue to ignore it and pay the price through growing instability, or pause and listen to what has been neglected. What is crucial is that the compensatory mechanism is rarely direct. Dreams seldom state plainly, "You are inflated," or "You are living in the wrong direction." They speak through paradox, through reversal, through stories that appear illogical. And for this reason, without understanding compensation, we easily read dreams literally and draw false conclusions. A dream of failure does not necessarily predict failure. It may be detoxifying arrogance. A dream of power is not necessarily delusion. It may be awakening repressed potential. Jung believed that the correct attitude toward dreams is neither fear nor worship, but humility. Humility to admit that consciousness does not see the whole picture. Humility to accept that there is another intelligence, the unconscious, quietly adjusting the course of life. He wrote, "The unconscious can make a fool of you in no time." Collected Works, Volume 10. This statement is not a threat, but a reminder. If we do not listen, the adjustment will occur in a cruder form. Ultimately, the compensatory mechanism reveals something fundamental in Jung's thought. Dreams are not against the human being. They stand on the side of wholeness. They do not serve the ego, but neither do they seek to destroy it. They simply attempt to rebalance the soul so that a person does not remain trapped within a distorted image of themselves. When we begin to view dreams through the lens of compensation, a subtle shift occurs. We stop asking, "What does this dream say about the future?" and begin asking, "What is this dream trying to balance in my present life?" It is precisely this question that opens the door to psychological maturity, where dreams are no longer saboteurs of sleep, but quiet regulators of a life seeking to recover its equilibrium. When we have understood that dreams function as a compensatory mechanism, quietly rebalancing the scales of the soul, whenever consciousness tilts too far to one side, a more subtle issue immediately arises. Who is the dream speaking about? Is it speaking about people and events in external life, or about the parts of ourselves that have become split off and disowned? Carl Jung answered this question with a crucial distinction, which, if not properly grasped, leads to countless misunderstandings. Dream interpretation on the objective level and on the subjective level. 5. Subjective versus objective. Dream interpretation. When the dream shifts from others to oneself. In analytical psychology, Jung pointed out that dreams can and very often do operate on two different levels of interpretation. On the objective level, the figures in the dream represent real people and real relationships in waking life. On the subjective level, every figure represents a part of the dreamer, themselves, attitudes, drives, qualities, or shadow aspects that have not yet been recognized. Choosing which level to work on is not a purely technical decision. It is a psychological and ethical one. Jung warned that many people, both dreamers and analysts, tend to read dreams too hastily on the objective level. This is understandable. Speaking about others is always safer than speaking about oneself. When someone dreams of conflict with a father, mother, spouse, or colleague, the natural reflex is to conclude, this dream is about them. But Jung emphasized that this is often a way of avoiding inner responsibility. He wrote, "As a rule, the subjective level is the more important one because it refers directly to the dreamer's own personality." Collected Works, Volume 16. On the subjective level, the father in the dream is not merely the father in external life. He may represent an inner principle of authority, an internalized judging voice, or an image of law and order. A spouse in the dream may not be speaking about marriage at all, but about the dreamer's own capacity for emotional relatedness. When a dream is read on this level, the central question shifts from "What are they doing to me?" to "Which part of me is behaving this way?" However, Jung also warned against the opposite mistake, psychologizing everything to an extreme. Dreams are not always speaking only about the inner world. There are relationships in external life that are genuinely decisive, and in such cases, the dream may be reflecting or warning about a concrete, objective situation. Jung wrote, "The objective level should not be ignored when the relationship in question is of vital importance." Collected Works, Volume 8. So how does one know which level to choose? Jung offered a simple, yet profound criterion: the vital importance of the external relationship. If the person appearing in the dream has a direct, ongoing, and irreplaceable influence on the dreamer's current life, a spouse, a father whose authority determines crucial decisions, a power relationship that cannot be avoided, then reading the dream on the objective level is necessary. Even then, Jung insisted that the subjective level must never be excluded. The crucial point is this: the two levels do not cancel each other out, but they cannot be carelessly mixed. One of the most common mistakes is using the subjective level to deny objective responsibility. It's just my issue, not theirs. Or using the objective level to avoid inner work. They are the problem. Jung regarded both attitudes as expressions of imbalance. At a deeper level, this distinction touches on a difficult truth. dreams force us back toward ourselves, even when they appear to speak about others. When we dream of someone betraying, humiliating, or abandoning us, the first reaction is indignation. But Jung invites a more challenging question. Which part of me is betraying myself? Which part of me is abandoning my own genuine needs? He wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Collected Works, Volume 10. This statement is not about assigning blame. It is about restoring inner agency. When dreams are read on the subjective level, people stop waiting for the world to change and begin confronting their inner contradictions. This is a difficult step in psychological maturation because it strips away the position of victimhood. But precisely for that reason, it opens the possibility of real transformation. At the same time, Jung emphasized that reading dreams on the subjective level requires uncompromising honesty. Not every harmful behavior by others is an inner projection. There are situations in which a dream is genuinely warning us about a toxic relationship or an objective distortion that must be faced directly. In such cases, attempting to psychologize everything becomes a subtle form of self-deception. Therefore, choosing the level of interpretation is not a matter of applying a rigid rule, but an act of delicate discernment based on the lived context, the degree of emotional involvement, and the dreamer's capacity to assume responsibility. Jung considered this discernment part of the process of individuation, in which a person learns to distinguish what truly belongs to themselves from what genuinely lies outside them. Ultimately, the distinction between subjective and objective reveals something fundamental in Jung's thought. Dreams do not side with self-justification. They side with truth. Whether that truth demands that we look back at ourselves, or that we dare to confront relationships that are damaging our lives. When we learn to read dreams at the appropriate level, dreams cease to be mirrors for blame and become guiding instruments, helping us live more consciously, more responsibly, and closer to our true selves. When we have learned to distinguish dreams on the subjective and objective levels, when we no longer rush to project every image onto others, nor fall into the opposite extreme of psychologizing everything about ourselves, the dream begins to reveal its deepest value, its capacity to illuminate real life through concrete scenarios. At this point, theory alone is no longer sufficient. Jung often presented vivid cases to demonstrate how dreams operate when placed in the proper context. One of the most representative examples is the dream of a job in Chile. 6. Case study. The dream of a job in Chile, when outer failure opens a path to the inner shadow. Within Carl Jung's clinical archive, there are dreams that do not impress through bizarre imagery, but through a simplicity so great that it is easily overlooked. The dream of a job in Chile is such a case. A middle-aged man dreams that he travels to South America to seek employment, yet repeatedly fails, is rejected, and feels lost in an unfamiliar environment. At first glance, the dream appears to be nothing more than a nocturnal repetition of a daytime event he had recently been rejected for a job in Chile because he was unmarried. But Jung did not stop at the surface. He understood that dreams rarely function as mere copies of reality. He wrote, "The dream is not a mere repetition of the day's residues, but a spontaneous self-portrait of the actual psychic situation." Collected Works. Volume 8. If one were to read this dream only on the objective level, one might hastily conclude that it reflects professional disappointment or anxiety about being judged by social norms. But Jung chose a different, deeper reading. Why did the unconscious bring this man specifically to the South? In Jungian symbolism, the South is often associated with warm regions, instinct, emotion, libido, and life that has not yet been refined by reason. In contrast to the North, associated with structure, order, discipline, and spirit, the South represents instinctual and emotional life. Jung did not treat this as a geographical symbol, but as a psychological movement. In his conscious life, this man was serious intellectual, well adapted to society, yet emotionally immature and underdeveloped in the realm of intimacy and relationships. His unmarried status was not merely a social condition. In this case, it reflected a delay in instinctual and relational development. The dream does not reproach him for not being married, but points to the fact that the southern part of his psyche remains foreign territory. Jung referred to such regions as shadowland areas of psychological life that have not been lived and not yet integrated. He wrote, "The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality." Collected Works. Volume 9. Here the shadow is not evil in a moral sense, but immaturity, avoidance, and fear of intimacy. The dream places the man in a context of failure in the South in order to compensate for a conscious attitude overly tilted toward intellect, career, and social image. It tells him, not in words, but through experience, You cannot successfully work in the land of emotion if you have never truly lived there. What is striking is that the dream offers no comforting resolution. It does not console, nor does it encourage in a sentimental way. It allows him to fail to be rejected, to feel lost. Jung regarded this as the honesty of the unconscious. He wrote, "Dreams are impartial. They do not flatter the ego." Collected Works, Volume 10. Failure in the dream is not meant to diminish the person, but to confront him with an unacknowledged truth. If this man continues to live as he has successful outwardly, while avoiding deep emotional attachment, then Chile in his psychological life will remain a place where no work can succeed. Another subtle aspect of this case study is that the dream does not propose a direct solution. It does not say that he must marry or that he must change immediately. Jung emphasized that the function of dreams is not to issue commands, but to expand consciousness. He wrote, "The dream shows the inner truth and reality of the patient as it really is." Collected Works, Volume 8. The truth here is that the man's instinctual and emotional life has fallen behind his intellectual and social development. When this disparity grows too wide, the unconscious is forced to intervene through spatial and geographical imagery to show that he is living in the wrong psychological climate. This case study illustrates a core principle of Jungian dream analysis. Dreams always speak about where a person is stuck in the process of maturation. Not morally stuck, but existentially stuck. This man is not wrong, but he has not fully lived what life is demanding of him at that stage. Thus, the dream of a job in Chile is not merely the story of one individual, but a mirror. For many modern people, those who succeed in structure, reason, and career, yet feel clumsy and unprepared in intimacy, attachment, and emotional life. Jung does not judge them. He simply points out that any neglected territory of the soul will eventually speak, if not by day, then by night. And it is precisely here that the deepest value of the dream becomes visible. It does not destroy life, but calls forth delayed maturity. When the dreamer is courageous enough to listen, failure in the dream ceases to be a bad omen and becomes an invitation to enter one's own south, where the shadow awaits recognition and integration. After witnessing how the dream of a job in Chile functions as an honest mirror of a misaligned life, where outer failure exposes inner immaturity, we begin to recognize a key insight in Jung's thought. A dream does not need to be decoded like a devious cipher. It is already speaking its truth. And it is precisely here that Jung introduced a breakthrough conception that set him apart from the Freudian tradition, the dream as a spontaneous self-portrait of the unconscious. 7. The dream as a spontaneous self-portrait. When the unconscious speaks truth through images, while Sigmund Freud viewed dreams as a form of disguise, a subtle camouflage of censored wishes, Carl Jung took a fundamentally different path. Jung did not deny that dreams can be distorted, illogical, or even bizarre. But he did not believe that such distortion was meant to deceive consciousness. On the contrary, Jung held that dreams speak the truth in the only way the unconscious can, through images, symbols, and emotions. Jung stated this clearly. The dream is a spontaneous self-portrayal in symbolic form of the actual situation in the unconscious. Collected Works, Volume 8. This sentence forms the foundation of the entire Jungian approach. A dream is not a riddle designed to mislead. It is like a self-drawn portrait arising naturally from the soil of the psyche, like a flower that grows without asking permission. If its form appears strange, it is not because it seeks to deceive, but because the language of the unconscious does not coincide with the language of reason. This difference carries profound psychological implications. If we believe that dreams are hiding something, we approach them with suspicion, even confrontation. We search for the real meaning behind the images, as if the dream were playing hide and seek with us. But if we accept Jung's perspective, our attitude shifts entirely. We begin to listen to the dream as a truthful presentation, even though it does not follow the familiar syntax of conscious thought. Jung believed that the unconscious has no reason to deceive. It has no social motives, no need to maintain an image, no concern for reputation. He wrote, "The unconscious is not a demonic monster, but a natural psychic phenomenon." Collected Works, Volume 7. It is consciousness with its roles, masks, and expectations that engages in concealment. The unconscious merely reflects the actual condition of the entire psychic system. If life is out of balance, the dream will reflect that imbalance. If a part of the person has been neglected, the dream will allow that part to step onto the stage. The image of a self-portrait is particularly precise because a dream does not choose flattering angles. It does not adjust the lighting or erase imperfections. It may expose cowardice, ambition, fear, or immaturity, not to accuse, but to show what is actually there. Jung emphasized, dreams are impartial. They show the truth of the unconscious. Collected Works, Volume 10. What many people find difficult to accept about dreams is not their mystery, but their honesty. Dreams do not conform to the story the ego wants to believe. A person who sees themselves as humble may dream of power and domination. A person who prides themselves on rationality may dream of intense emotion. Not because the dream is fabricating, but because it is compensating for a one-sided conscious self-image. Jung often compared dreams to natural phenomena. He saw in dreams the same logic that governs the growth of plants or the changes of weather. He wrote, "The psyche is a self-regulating system." Collected Works, Volume 8. When that system is strained or skewed, dreams adjust it. And like nature, this adjustment is indifferent to human convenience. A storm does not act out of malice. It is simply the atmosphere responding to its conditions. Dreams function in the same way they respond to the psychological state that exists. Understanding dreams as spontaneous self-portraits brings about a subtle yet profound shift in one's attitude toward life. We stop striving to interpret correctly and begin striving to see honestly. Instead of asking, "What is this dream trying to hide?" we ask, "What is this dream showing me about myself right now?" This is a difficult question because it demands humility and courage. This perspective also frees dreams from moral burden. Jung did not classify dreams as good or bad. They are simply truthful. A violent dream does not make the dreamer a bad person. It shows that a source of repressed energy is seeking expression. A dark dream is not an omen. It may be an honest image of a life that lacks light. Ultimately, to view dreams as spontaneous self-portraits is to accept that the unconscious is a living part of the human being, not an enemy to be subdued. It does not speak the language of reason, but it speaks with its own intelligence, the intelligence of images, emotions, and symbols. When we learn to read that language without imposing ourselves upon it, dreams cease to be puzzles to be solved and become living pictures, sometimes beautiful, sometimes difficult to look at, but always truthful about where we stand on the journey of becoming ourselves. When we have come to understand the dream as a spontaneous self-portrait, an honest depiction of the state of the unconscious, In the present moment, a natural question arises: if the dream reflects an unfolding truth, does it merely describe what is? Or is it also quietly pointing toward a direction? Here, Carl Jung introduced a dimension that is less frequently discussed, yet profoundly important: the prospective function of dreams, their capacity to prepare for the future without imposing fate. 8. The prospective function. When dreams sketch the path not yet taken. In common thinking, dreams are often regarded as products of the past residues of daytime memories, repressed impressions, fragments of experience that have not yet been digested. Jung did not deny this regressive aspect, but he argued that to view dreams only in this way is to miss half the truth. According to Jung, dreams also possess another, more subtle function. They look forward, acting as a rough sketch of emerging possibilities within the psyche. Jung wrote, "Dreams are often anticipatory and show a future psychological development." Collected Works, Volume 8. This sentence must be read with care. Jung was not claiming that dreams predict the future in a mystical sense. He was saying that dreams are prospective. They outline tendencies and possibilities based on the totality of information held by the unconscious information that consciousness has not yet recognized or is unwilling to acknowledge. At a deeper level, the unconscious functions as a vast integrative system. It registers subtle emotional shifts, unnamed conflicts, nascent impulses, and ignored fatigue. While daytime consciousness may remain attached to an old narrative, the nocturnal dream can move one step ahead, presenting a different scenario, not to compel, but to suggest. Jung emphasized that the prospective function of dreams can be properly understood only when we relinquish the notion of destiny. He wrote, "The prospective function is not prophetic in the strict sense, but anticipatory." Collected Works, Volume 8. In other words, the dream does not say, "This will inevitably happen." It says, if the current attitude continues, this is a direction in which psychological life may move. This distinction keeps Jung's thought clear of both superstition and rigid rationalism. A dream is neither a verdict nor a promise. It is a provisional map drawn in unfinished lines. In analytic practice, Jung observed that many dreams appear before a person becomes consciously aware of the need for change. Someone may dream of leaving an old house, crossing a bridge, or entering a foreign land, while by day insisting that life is still fine. These dreams do not arise from conscious decisions, but from the quiet movement of the psyche. Jung noted, "The dream may anticipate future developments because the unconscious sees far more than the conscious mind." Collected Works, Volume 16. This does not turn the unconscious into a supernatural prophet. It simply reflects its broader field of vision. Consciousness views life through goals, plans, and social roles. The unconscious views life through the lens of human wholeness, where what is repressed today may become a crisis or an opportunity tomorrow. Nevertheless, Jung consistently warned of a major danger, interpreting the prospective function of dreams too rigidly. When people believe that a dream has already foretold the future, they easily fall into passivity or fear. This runs counter to the Jungian spirit. Jung stressed that dreams merely open possibilities, and it is the conscious attitude that determines which possibilities will be realized. He wrote, "The dream does not tell you what to do, but it shows you what is going on." Collected Works, Volume 8. If a dream depicts collapse, it is not a sentence. It may be an early warning, allowing for a course correction while there is still time. If a dream presents images of creativity, integration, or new beginnings, it is not a guarantee of success, but a sign that a potential is seeking expression. At its deepest level, the prospective function of dreams is inseparable from the process of individuation. The unconscious is not concerned merely with short-term stability, but with long-term human maturation. When a way of living no longer serves wholeness, dreams begin to sketch alternative scenarios, sometimes vague, sometimes unsettling, but always oriented toward a fuller human being. This explains why many future-oriented dreams do not materialize exactly as they were seen. They have not failed. They have fulfilled their function the moment the dreamer changed their conscious attitude. When their consciousness catches up with what the unconscious has suggested, the prospective scenario is no longer necessary. Ultimately, to understand the prospective function of dreams is to learn how to live in dialogue with the future rather than in fear of it. Dreams do not ask for blind belief, nor do they ask to be ignored. They invite us to listen, to reflect, and to take responsibility. Responsibility not for the images of the dream, but for the direction of present life. When read correctly, dreams do not bind a person to fate. On the contrary, they expand inner freedom by revealing that even the future is being shaped by the quiet choices of today. And it is here that dreams become the most silent of companions. They do not walk the path for us, but they continually illuminate the turnings that consciousness has not yet learned to see. When we understand that the prospective function of dreams is not meant to impose destiny, but to sketch possibilities emerging from one's current attitude toward life, a more serious question arises. What happens when a dream is not merely suggesting, but actively trying to warn? Here the boundary between psychology and real life becomes fragile. Carl Jung did not avoid this question. He acknowledged that in certain rare yet decisive cases, dreams do not speak only about inner development, but relate directly to survival itself. 9. When dreams warn of subtle danger, the ignored warning of the unconscious. In his clinical cases and memoirs, Jung recounts a deeply disturbing incident. A man passionately devoted to mountaineering, renowned for his recklessness and his unshakable belief that he could overcome all limits. Before embarking on a dangerous climb, the man dreamed that he slipped and fell into open space. The dream contained no elaborate drama, no mythological symbolism, only a moment of lost balance, followed by a fall. Not long afterward, the man died in exactly that way in real life. Jung did not recount this story to instill fear, but to point to a difficult truth. The unconscious can sometimes perceive dangers that consciousness refuses to acknowledge. He wrote, "The unconscious can see dangers that the conscious mind ignores." Collected Works, Volume 8. The mountaineer did not lack skill or experience. What he lacked was humility before human limitation. In his conscious life, he identified himself with the image of conquest, of surpassing, of triumphing over nature. Such an attitude, in Jungian terms, constitutes a form of ego inflation, in which a person believes they have transcended the ordinary constraints of body and fate. The dream appeared as an urgent act of compensation. It did not embellish or obscure. It presented the most exact image of what was being ignored. A single misstep was enough to end everything. Jung wrote, "When the ego is too far removed from reality, the unconscious intervenes with compensatory material of the most drastic kind." Collected Works, Volume 9. What makes this case painful is not that the dream was correct, but that it was not listened to. The man did not treat the dream as a warning. He may have dismissed it as fleeting anxiety or an insignificant image. It is here that Jung emphasized that reading dreams in the context of real life is not merely an intellectual exercise, but can sometimes be a matter of life and death. Nevertheless, Jung was extremely cautious when discussing such cases. He never encouraged treating dreams as certain prophecies. On the contrary, he warned that most dreams should not be read literally. Yet he also did not deny that there are moments when, as a life attitude becomes extreme and dangerous, the unconscious is compelled to speak in the most concrete and direct language possible. Jung wrote, "The dream warns the dreamer of dangers of which he knows nothing or does not want to know." Collected Works. Volume 8. What is worth reflecting upon is this: the dream does not create the accident. It merely reflects a danger that already exists. The arrogant attitude of wanting to go beyond oneself, beyond the body, beyond limits, beyond real conditions, had placed the man in a zone of risk long before. The dream did only what consciousness refused to do: place naked reality before the eyes. At a deeper level, this case is not only about mountaineering. It speaks to a tendency deeply familiar to modern life, living as though one were immune to consequences in work, in relationships. In the way people treat their bodies, there is often the belief that one can push a little further, endure a little more cross, just one more limit. When such an attitude becomes identity, the unconscious responds. Jung regarded such warning dreams as a cry for help from the entire psychic system. They are not moralistic, accusatory, or instructive. They simply state there is a point beyond which the price will no longer be bearable. The core of Jung's thinking is this: dreams have meaning only when placed within the context of real life. If separated from one's life attitude and concrete behavior, we fall either into superstition or into extreme skepticism. Jung rejected both. He wrote, "Meaningful interpretation of dreams is only possible when the dream is related to the conscious situation." Collected Works, Volume 8. The case of the mountaineer shows what happens when that connection is severed. The dream fulfilled its role. It compensated. It warned, it projected the consequence. What remained, the change of life attitude, was the responsibility of consciousness. Ultimately, warning dreams remind us of a difficult but necessary truth. In Jung's thought, the unconscious is not always patient. When subtle signals are ignored for too long, it speaks in a stronger language, not to punish, but to protect life, even if that protection sometimes comes too late. Understanding this does not lead a person into fear, but invites a different attitude toward living, greater humility, deeper listening, and less identification with fantasies that exceed real limits. In the most serious moments, dreams are not prophets, but silent gatekeepers, ones who have been knocking for a long time, waiting only to be heard in time. When we have seen that in extreme cases, a dream can become a direct warning for survival, when the unconscious is forced to speak in the most straightforward language in order to prevent the ego from rushing toward danger. Another limitation comes into view. Not every dream can be fully understood through personal context alone. There are dreams that transcend the story of a single life, carrying an ancient, expansive, and difficult-to-name resonance. To enter this realm, Carl Jung proposed a subtle yet highly responsible tool, the technique of amplification. 10. The technique of amplification and cultural context. When the personal dream touches the memory of humanity. In the process of dream analysis, Jung consistently emphasized that personal associations are the indispensable starting point. Yet he also recognized that there are dreams for which personal memory is insufficient. Such dreams often feel large. They contain grand images, timeless figures, settings unfamiliar to everyday life, and most notably, emotions that exceed personal experience. Jung referred to these as archetypal dreams. In these cases, if we force the dream back into a narrowly personal story, we impoverish its meaning. Jung wrote, "In the interpretation of archetypal dreams, we must take into account the collective unconscious." Collected Works, Volume 9. The technique of amplification arose from this necessity. Rather than narrowing meaning, amplification expands the symbolic field by placing dream images within the cultural, mythological, religious, and historical contexts of humanity. This is not meant to replace personal experience, but to support it within a broader framework of meaning. Jung was extremely careful at this point. Amplification is not a display of erudition, nor an arbitrary attachment of myths. It is a living act of comparison. Where has this image appeared in the history of the human psyche? When a person dreams of a snake, Jung does not hastily interpret it as libido or danger. He asks how the snake has appeared across cultures as a symbol of rebirth, wisdom healing, or temptation. The polyphony of the symbol allows the dreamer to sense the depth of the issue they are confronting. Jung wrote, "Amplification seeks to enrich the dream image by parallels from myth, religion, and folklore." Collected Works, Volume 8. What matters is this amplification does not make the dream more alien. It makes it less lonely. When a person realizes that the images in their dream, the hero crossing a trial, the dark mother, the coiled serpent, have been lived, told, and contemplated by countless generations, a profound consolation emerges. Their problem is no longer a personal flaw, but part of the human journey. Here, Jung touched upon a very subtle psychological need, the need to place personal suffering within a meaningful context. He wrote, "Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health." Collected Works. Volume 7. Archetypal dreams often appear during transitional crises when a person has left behind an old identity but has not yet found a new one. In such moments, the unconscious speaks not only about a personal issue, but draws the individual into the symbolic current of the whole. Amplification helps the dreamer understand that they are not regressing, but passing through a stage humanity has traversed many times in many forms. Nevertheless, Jung always warned of a serious danger. Amplification must never be used to replace personal associations. If the analyst ignores the dreamer's emotions, memories, and life context, and jumps directly into mythology, amplification becomes a form of intellectual escape. Jung emphasized, the personal associations of the dreamer must always come first. Collected Works. Volume 16. Amplification has meaning only when it resonates with the dreamer's inner emotional string. An archetypal symbol comes alive only when it touches personal experience. Otherwise, it remains merely a compelling story without transformative power. At a deeper level, the technique of amplification reflects Jung's core conviction. The individual psyche is not separate from the collective psyche. Modern humans, with all their feelings of alienation and isolation, often forget that the conflicts they are living between reason and instinct, freedom and responsibility, ego and something greater, have been expressed through myth, ritual, and symbol for thousands of years. Jung wrote, "Myth is the natural and indispensable intermediate stage between unconscious and conscious cognition." Collected Works, Volume 5. Amplification, therefore, is not a retreat into the past to escape the present. It is a bridge allowing modern consciousness to access the ancient layers of unconscious wisdom. When a dreamer recognizes themselves in the image of the hero, they are not encouraged to indulge in grandiose fantasy, but invited to assume responsibility for the journey of maturation. When they realize that the snake in the dream is not merely a personal fear, but also a symbol of transformation and rebirth, that fear begins to acquire meaning. Ultimately, the technique of amplification reveals a deeply humanistic aspect of Jung's thought. Healing does not come only from correct understanding, but from being placed within the right context. When a personal dream is connected to the memory of humanity, the dreamer no longer feels like an outcast in a meaningless universe. They recognize that their pain, crisis, and longing are unique variations of a very ancient story, the story of human beings seeking their way back to wholeness. And it is precisely at this point of intersection between private experience and collective symbol that the dream fulfills a profound function, not only illuminating the problem, but offering the person a sense of belonging, a quiet consolation that they are walking a path humanity has walked before and continues to walk together. When the technique of amplification expands a personal dream into the cultural and archetypal context of humanity, a new danger simultaneously emerges. Who is speaking through those symbols? Is it the voice of the dreamer's unconscious, or the unrecognized voice of the analyst themselves? Carl Jung was acutely aware of this risk and issued severe warnings about it, because even the most refined methods can become instruments of harm if the shadow of the analyst remains unrecognized. 11. The shadow of the analyst. When understanding becomes a form of imposition. One of Carl Jung's most direct and difficult to accept assertions is this: the analyst never stands outside the analytic process. They are not a neutral observer, but a human being carrying a history, wounds, beliefs, and unintegrated shadow aspects of their own. If these elements are not made conscious, they will quietly infiltrate dream interpretation, not through malice, but through unconscious certainty. Jung stated this uncompromisingly. The analyst himself must be analyzed. Collected Works, Volume 16. This sentence is not a procedural requirement, but an ethical principle. For dreams, as Jung understood them, are not objective data. They are living expressions of the dreamer's psyche, and any imposition from outside can distort the process at its core. The greatest danger lies in projection. An analyst may unconsciously see in the patient's dream their own unresolved conflicts. Someone who has lived through marital collapse may hastily read a patient's dream as a sign of separation. Someone who has struggled with power may perceive symbols of domination and submission everywhere. Jung warned, projection changes the world into the replica of one's own unknown face. Collected Works, Volume 10. In such cases, the dream no longer belongs to the dreamer. It is appropriated by the interpreter's narrative. And this is precisely where analysis turns into a subtle form of violence, the violence of imposed understanding. Jung emphasized that a dream has value only when it clicks for the dreamer, when it touches an inner truth the person recognizes, even if they are not yet ready to accept it. Without this resonance, every interpretation, no matter how logical, erudite, or elegant, remains foreign. He wrote, "A dream interpretation that does not make sense to the dreamer is wrong." Collected Works, Volume 8. This places the analyst in a position of rare humility. They are not the one who knows, but the one who listens. Not listening in order to respond quickly, but to remain with the dreamer's lived context, emotions, and personal history. Jung described each analytic case as a proposition entirely new. Collected Works, Volume 16. There are no formulas, no shortcuts, no absolute interpretive authority. The shadow of the analyst becomes most visible when the technique of amplification is misused. Knowledge of mythology, archetypes, and collective symbols can easily turn into an intellectual cloak, concealing impatience with the patient's small, fragile personal story. Jung warned especially against this because he understood that the grandeur of symbols must never be allowed to swallow the vulnerability of the living human being. He wrote, "The danger of dealing with archetypes is inflation." Collected Works, Volume 9. Inflation here does not affect only the dreamer, but also the analyst, when they identify themselves as the guide, the one who understands, and forget that they too are standing within an unfinished process. At that point, analysis ceases to be a meeting between two human beings and becomes a one-sided lecture. At a deeper level, Jung's warning about the shadow of the analyst reflects a fundamental humanistic principle. No one has the right to live another person's life for them. Dreams do not come to be resolved, but to be accompanied. The analyst must never use the dream as a means of confirming their own worldview, no matter how elevated that worldview may appear. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Collected Works, Volume 16. This sentence reminds us that analysis is a mutually transforming encounter. If only one side changes the patient, while the other retains a position of omniscience, This is no longer Jungian analysis, but power in disguise. Ultimately, recognizing the shadow of the analyst does not weaken the healing process. On the contrary, it protects the dignity of the dreamer. It keeps the dream within its rightful space, not reduced to a symptom, not inflated into destiny, and not appropriated by another person's story. In the Jungian spirit, a dream does not require a perfect interpreter. It requires a human being humble enough not to place themselves at the center. Only when the analyst dares to confront their own shadow can they truly listen to the shadow of another, not to judge, not to impose, but to allow a singular truth to speak in its own voice. When the analyst is humble enough to recognize their own shadow, when dream interpretation ceases to be an imposition of knowledge and becomes an act of honest listening, a deeper horizon truly begins to open. For if dreams do not exist to satisfy curiosity, do not aim to predict the future, and do not serve to reinforce interpretive power, then what is the ultimate destination of dream interpretation? For Carl Jung, the answer is consistent and unwavering: individuation. 12. Individuation, the ultimate destination of dream interpretation. In Carl Jung's thought, individuation does not mean becoming more special than others, nor does it mean perfecting an idealized ego. It is the process of becoming oneself in wholeness, where consciousness and the unconscious no longer oppose one another, but enter into a creative tension. Jung wrote a classic definition. Individuation means becoming an individual, and insofar as individuality embraces our innermost last and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. Collected Works, Volume 7. Within this framework, dreams are not the goal. They are the means, the path, the nocturnal call that urges the process of individuation to unfold in daytime life. To read dreams without aiming at individuation is merely to collect symbols. To read dreams for individuation is to accept a change in how one lives. Jung emphasized that the unconscious is not concerned with whether a person feels comfortable or successful by social standards. The unconscious is concerned with wholeness. And when a part of the person is excluded, instinct, emotion, vulnerability, the feminine or creative longing, the dream will speak. He wrote, "The self is not only the center, but also the circumference of the whole personality." Collected Works, Volume 12. This sentence contains a profound paradox. the self is both the coordinating center and the encompassing circle. Individuation is not the inflation of the ego, but the placement of the ego in its proper position within a greater totality. Dreams through compensation, projection, and warning continually remind the ego that it is not the whole story. Therefore, the aim of reading dreams in the context of real life is not to understand correctly, but to live correctly. When a dream exposes arrogance, individuation demands humility. When a dream reveals the fear of abandonment, individuation demands the courage to enter real relationship. When a dream opens images of repressed creativity, individuation demands action, not in the dream, but in life. Jung warned that individuation is never an easy path. It is often accompanied by loss, the loss of familiar roles, the loss of illusions about oneself, and sometimes even the loss of approval from one's surroundings. He wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Collected Works, Volume 12. Dreams do not promise quick happiness. They promise only truth. And that truth, if integrated, leads to a deeper form of peace, one that does not depend on avoidance or forgetting. At this point, Jung completely separates dream interpretation from forms of spiritual sedation. Sleep is not for escaping reality. Sleep is for encountering reality at a deeper level. Dreams do not lead us away from life. They lead us back to life, but with a broader, more compassionate, and more honest awareness. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Collected Works, Volume 10. This sentence closes the entire journey of dream interpretation with an unavoidable invitation. Either we consciously enter the process of individuation, or we continue to be driven by invisible forces we do not understand. Dreams do not compel. They propose. But each time the proposal is ignored, the price is often transferred into life in the form of repetition, crisis, or stagnation. What makes individuation profoundly human is that it does not turn a person into an ideal template. On the contrary, it highlights uniqueness. Jung called each life a proposition entirely new, a statement that has never existed before. Dreams help a person discover how to live that proposition, not by imitation, but by integrating the fragmented pieces of their own being. Ultimately, individuation is not a closed destination. It is a lifelong process in which each dream is a small but decisive adjustment. To read dreams in the Jungian spirit is to accept that human beings are always in a state of becoming unfinished, incomplete, yet always capable of greater honesty with themselves. And so, the closing word of this journey is not an easy promise, but a lucid reminder. Do not sleep in order to forget reality. Sleep in order to listen to it, speaking in its deepest language. For when dreams are read in the context of life and lived in the light of individuation, a person does not merely understand themselves better, they become themselves step by step in the wholeness Carl Jung called the self. A dream is like a letter written in invisible ink. The context of your life is the flame that reveals its lines. It does not come from a foreign world, nor does it carry cryptic prophecies. Dreams are written from what you have lived, avoided, longed for, and forgotten. Tonight, when all daytime rolls fall silent, listen to the whispers of the unconscious, not with fear, but with the curiosity of one who is learning to understand themselves. Dreams do not ask for blind belief, nor do they demand immediate change. They simply invite you to pause, to look deeper, and to ask, what in my life is asking for my attention? If this video touches you, even in the faintest way, stay. Let your dreams no longer be forgotten in hurried mornings, but become quiet guides on the journey back to your true self. If you find these reflections meaningful, please press subscribe to continue deeper conversations between mind dream and lived life. And if you wish, share in the comments a recent dream that has left you most puzzled. Who knows, perhaps, from your story, a new door may open, not only for others, but for yourself.